The inheritance distribution has been finalized, and Tatiana received the mother-in-law's share. She had been living with her husband Yuri and their children Masha and Misha for about a decade, despite Valentina's disapproval of their marriage. Valentina believed that Yuri's only son was more deserving of his inheritance. Despite Tatiana being a simple librarian or Nina, the head of the warehouse, she was smart and beautiful, and her parents were not ordinary workers like Tanya. Yuri chose Tatiana, and they had children together. However, Yuri's drinking habits became a problem, and Tatiana filed for divorce, despite having twins to care for. Valentina always defended her son's behavior and blamed Tatiana for his drinking problems. She complained to anyone who would listen that Tatiana dressed poorly, was always buried in books, and was a bad cook. Valentina believed that if Yuri had married someone like Ninka, their life would have been better. After her divorce, Tatiana took her son and daughter and moved in with her parents. Despite the cramped living conditions in their small house, they managed to live together peacefully without any conflicts. However, tragedy struck when Yura, Tatiana's former husband, was killed in a motorcycle accident while out fishing with a friend. Although Vasily, the friend, survived the accident, Yura did not. Despite her grief, Tatiana did not shed a tear in front of anyone, as she was a strong and resilient woman. In the aftermath of the accident, Tatiana continued to raise her children and care for her aging parents. She eventually remarried and continued to focus on her family and their well-being. Meanwhile, her children pursued successful careers, with her son becoming a high-ranking executive in the construction industry and her daughter becoming a teacher. Despite the challenges she faced, Tatiana persevered and remained dedicated to her family. She even reconnected with her ex-mother-in-law after 10 years and celebrated Valentina Ivanovna's 85th birthday. Through it all, Tatiana remained a strong and resilient woman, determined to overcome any obstacles that came her way. The old woman had been in good spirits until she had a fall and broke her hip. She confided in her grandchildren, who responded by taking action. Misha arranged for her to be hospitalized and undergo surgery to replace the damaged joint, and Masha took care of her after she was discharged from the hospital. During one of Masha's visits, Valentina suggested that she should have called her for help. Despite the fact that Masha and Valentina's daughter-in-law, Tatiana, didn't get along, Valentina insisted that it was necessary. At that point, Valentina was able to move around her apartment on her own, but still needed assistance with certain tasks. She proposed a deal to Tatiana during one of her visits. She would pay Tatiana to look after her and write down how much she would have spent on rent if she had stayed in a care home. If Tatiana declined, Valentina would leave her mansion to the state. As a result, Tatiana agreed to the proposal and began taking care of Valentina's needs. Masha and her husband, both teachers, were struggling to save enough money for a down payment on an apartment. With 2 young children to support, they couldn't afford a mortgage either. As a mother, it pained Tatiana to see her daughter struggling to provide a stable home for her family. Meanwhile, Tatiana's life took a turn for the better after her divorce. She no longer felt tied down to her responsibilities as a wife and mother, and enjoyed the newfound freedom that came with being on her own. However, Valentina Ivanovna, Tatiana's mother-in-law, kept her busy with household chores and meticulous penny pinching. She expected Tatiana to keep the apartment clean, do laundry, and shop for the cheapest groceries available. Valentina Ivanovna even demanded that Tatiana read books and newspapers aloud to her, as her eyesight was failing. Despite the challenges, Tatiana remained resilient and continued to support her family in any way she could. She empathized with Masha's struggles and tried to help her daughter find a way to afford a stable home for her family. Tatiana's experiences taught her the importance of hard work and perseverance, and she remained committed to supporting her loved ones through thick and thin. Mary expressed sympathy towards her mother, suggesting that they hire a nurse and find her a job to help alleviate some of the burden. However, Tatiana was hesitant, fearing that her mother-in-law would renege on her promise to not sign over her apartment. Masha also tried to assist her mother, but their grandmother was unappreciative and demanding, expecting Tatiana to fulfill her every whim. Now, Valentina Ivanovna is approaching her 95th birthday and appears to be thriving despite a recent broken leg. Tatiana, on the other hand, laments that her mother-in-law has yet to pass away, wishing for a reprieve from her difficult behavior. Despite the challenges, they continue to live with the situation as it is,